Welcome to the Cannabis Analysis, the podcast that covers all things cannabis. We're going to talk, debate, examine, and get great. We are now live on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Don't forget to join our locals community. The link tree will be in the description box.
Perfect. How we doing, fellow Cannabisians? Welcome to the first episode of the Cannabis Analysis, where we study all things cannabis, trends, industry news, laws, states to become legal. You'll find it here. Sorry about that. Firing up a little bit of Colombian sativa. And the first episode really is dear to my heart. It seems that marijuana has overtaken beer, or alcohol I should say, in overall daily use. Me being a big beer fanatic and a cannabis fanatic, this is definitely something that strikes dear to my heart. Now I can remember the craft beer boom, I guess about 15, 20 years ago, something like that. And seems that it was kind of on the downward trend and weed was on the uptrend, and now weed has basically wiped out beer usage. And you know, I guess when you have a choice, the people have spoken. So I have an article from NBC News that even sparked this whole topic idea up in my head. Now, let me roll right into this, shall we? Daily marijuana use outpaces daily drinking in the U.S., a new study says. Alcohol is still the more widely used, but 2022 was the first time frequent marijuana use overtook frequent drinking. So cool. That sets everything up that we need to know. And I have a few theories of my own. Now, I think one of them is that I guess the people who have the cannabis stigma are dying off. New people who don't have that same stigma in mind about how bad cannabis can be are overtaking things, and they're the new consumers. So we'll go down a little further. Okay. Daily and near-daily marijuana use is now more common than similar levels of drinking in the U.S. According to an analysis, he said it. He said the thing. According to an analysis of a national survey data over 4 decades. Alcohol is still more widely used, but 2022 was the first time this intensive level of marijuana use overtook high-frequency drinking, said a study author Jonathan Calkins, a cannabis policy researcher at Carnegie Mellon University. So I have a few, questions about this actually. So it said over 4 decades, and it's claiming something from 2022. So 40 years ago would have been 1982, which would have been prime prohibition time. I think 1981 started camp, and Operation Greenhouse, specifically in California, to cut down on growers and the ability to trade seeds, transfer, get any supplies towards it. And it was a lot of raids, a lot of genetics were lost. So I think at that time, people being honest about their usage of marijuana would definitely be swayed. The average person would hide themselves. What is that Mel Frank? Who that Jorge Cervantes? I forget, one of the authors of High Times, basically that's his surname, just for the fact that he worked at a major publication. I believe it was the New York Times, if I'm mistaken, forgive me. But he did that to stay incognito because mainstream would have fired him had they found out he was smoking weed. So I don't think that starting in 82, you would have these same, sorry about that, I was getting coffee. Starting in 82, you would get as many people volunteering to say yes, they're even a user as you would nowadays, going past the Gen Z, millennials, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'll go a little bit further. Yeah, I really question that. That's something I would really, really like to know. A good 40% of current cannabis users are using it daily or near daily, a pattern that is more associated with tobacco use than typical alcohol use. Okay. 40% of current users use it daily or near daily. I guess, you know what, like I said, they started this in 82. This is a 40-year study, so I'm really curious. I want to say that number is higher. I'd probably go up to 50%. That was the reason, Jack Herrera was coming out with Reefer Madness and information at this time. It's been numerous studies the government has done to prove the benefits of cannabis, actually. And I think we could be further medically along had we been able to study it. Places like Israel and Spain are today. So yeah, I still think that this is kind of skewed in a way. The research, based on data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, was published Wednesday in the journal Addiction. The survey is a highly regarded source of estimates of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use in the United States. So this would be the source to go to if you wanted to find any kind of information about, I guess, drug habits, drug use, kind of get a eye into the lens of drugs and alcohol, I guess, weed and alcohol to be more specific. In 2022, an estimated 17.7 million people use marijuana daily or near daily compared to 14.7 million daily or near daily drinkers, according to the study. From 1992 to 2022, the per capita rate of reportedly daily or near daily marijuana use increased 15-fold. Wow. I don't know what that necessarily means. I'm not a mathematician, but that's a lot. And I guess, yes, things go on. California was legal in 96. I know it took a little bit of time for that to come on, but definitely by the 2000s, they were up and going. Washington State, by that time, Colorado's on board. And now at this point, it's like half the state. I mean, actually, I remember when the state I'm in went rec legal. And going to the dispensaries before that with my medical card and what the lines were, and then going with rec legal, it was like 3 times the volume of people being there. So it's a portion of closet smokers, basically. And now I guess that the floodgates are open. They can come out of the closet, or somebody who necessarily doesn't have a bad stigma on them and just wants to try it. Now they have that ability. I get it. And then I also wonder socially if that's the thing. I know COVID was a big deal. And I'm guessing that's why the information kind of stops at that point, like 2022. Okay, the trend reflects changes in public policy. Many states now allow medical or recreational marijuana, though it remains illegal at the federal level. Okay. In November, Florida voters will decide on a constitutional amendment allowing recreational cannabis, which actually passed. So this must be a little bit older. I think they actually do have rec legal the last time I checked. And the federal government is moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Yes, they are going to try to reschedule it, but the bad thing about that, the rescheduling is going to put it in kind of an iffy spot as well. There is a lot of pros and cons in this. I'm really curious, and homegrown is really the thing that most people are worried about. If it comes down to trying to put some kind of farm tax on people growing or anything like that, there's not going to be the freedom I kind of envisioned that we were going to get when this all started. Research shows that high-frequency users are more likely to become addicted to marijuana, said Dr. David A. Gorlick, a psychiatry professor at the University of Maryland School of Science and Medicine, who was not involved in the study. Oh, he's a hater. You ain't involved me in a study. Yeah, you know people can get addicted to the stuff, right? I don't think that that's true. It's not habit forming. I think what I want to say in like the 1890s was the first government study, maybe the 1830s, but the government has studied the effects of marijuana and they found no negative benefits. Then I know actually when they scheduled it with Nixon being the president, the same results pretty much had come out, and that's what Jack Herrera was talking about in The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Is the same studies keep coming out, and it keeps giving you the same information. There's no bad um bad side effects compared to like even alcohol. So I'm wondering if what Dr. A. Gorlick got some stock in Heineken or Flying Dog or something. A number of daily users suggest that more people are at risk for developing problematic cannabis use or addiction. I mean, I guess, yeah, but what would be the reasons that they're using it would be the first thing you got to wonder in that. There's a lot of crossover and things that I wonder. Two things can be right at the same time. And also, because you get a result doesn't mean it's always the same effect that you think. Now, there is definitely, I get the abuse of recreational usage. You don't have any problems, you're just doing it to have a good time. But you're lumping that in with people who actually do have a medical ailment or some type of problem, which I would just think logically, if they actually have a real, say, physical problem, they would probably be using it a lot more. So to try and, I guess, say that somebody using it totally medicinally and lump them in with basically Shaggy from Scooby Doo, I think is very disingenuous. A high frequency use is also, I'm so sorry. High frequency use also increases the risk of developing cannabis associated psychosis. Now, that I can understand. A severe condition where a person loses touch with reality. Now, yeah, that happens. Didn't chick stab her boyfriend like 100 times or something like that and blamed it on cannabis psychosis in California, I believe? And we actually did on what? Cannabis News, Brutal Monkey News, the what? That was it? You gotta be kidding me. On Brutal Monkey News, we did a report on murders and different psychosis. Yes, that is it. So that was it. It was just one hater. And that was kind of a weak argument, I consider. Now, these are some points that I had out of this, just to kind of be transparent. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. But I kind of think that for the cost of everything that you get, beer is pretty much $10 a six pack, and a six pack, at least in my world, is a serving. So it will cost a 12 pack, which would be like about $20 to get two people drunk. For the price of $20, it's a good dispensary. You can get a good 4 or 5 J's with the last days, and that beer is probably just going to be a Friday night, really. Might have two left over Saturday morning. So I think for the cost, it's probably cheaper to go with weed. That could have something to do with the increase. Then I know for a fact I was working at a bar part time, and when COVID hit, pretty much that destroyed a lot of bars. A lot of DC bars closed. A lot of breweries closed down. So it was terrible. And that goes into my next point that overall I think that made people less social. So you can, what if you drink alone, you got a problem. That kind of reminds me of The Simpsons. Reminds me of The Simpsons back in the day when Marge was trying to quit, make Homer quit drinking, and she went through a checklist with him. I was like, do you drink alone, Homer? Well, does the Lord count? Do you drink in the dark? Turn the light up. Homer, was that a beer? No, I was saying Mars. Psst, love you. So yeah, you can definitely smoke by yourself. That's not a problem. It's socially accepted. Going to the head, that's what we used to call it, going to the dome, smoking to the face. And yeah, if you drinking by yourself, yeah, that's kind of a bad thing. That's only if I guess you get ready to go somewhere to go out. But yeah, you can't excessively drink by yourself. That means you got problems. You need to go check yourself in the AA. But yeah, the shrinking of bars, I think, affected the beer side over, and overall social outlets just in general are down now. You know, overall people are less social. And now that cannabis is more socially acceptable, this was a point I was hinting on earlier, that it's kind of lost a stigma of being like the devil's lettuce, that younger people can come in once they're legal, of age, can come in and try it out for themselves without a lot of consequences. I mean, there is, you know, this person is right. You can get paranoid, you can get psychosis or whatever, but that's a lot less likely than alcohol. There's no telling what can really happen from that. Like, what you can, any sip can give you alcohol poisoning. So I think I'd rather have my odds with the cannabis. Don't mind me. I was hiding. Well, that stinks. Okay. Ah, Then, yeah, for cannabis, there's no hangover, you know, less side effects than it would be with a night out of drinking. You'll probably pass out before you take your shirt off and do something stupid. And I guess going back to my original point, you know, it's more cost effective. You get more bang for your buck. I would say also the effects last longer. You know, and in the sense of what I wrote down was an edible versus taking a shot. Like, yeah, the shot's gonna fuck you up, but yeah, you're going to, you know, go down pretty quick. You take an edible, man, if you take too much, you might be begging to get off this ride. So I think, you know, price, going back into price, you know, the effects last longer, and I just think you get more bang for your buck. And I would argue that cannabis is more of a social drug than alcohol is a social drug. You know, I kind of, I know that might be out there, but I'm definitely willing to say that. I've been to plenty of concerts, and I've never had anybody passing beers around, but I've definitely had a bunch of joints come my way. Then I believe there's actually medicinal effects with cannabis. That's another thing that it has over alcohol. Alcohol can probably get you out of this world a little bit more, but I don't think anybody wants to be that off the planet. You want to be a little more grounded, just really relaxed. And I can remember my friend actually telling me when we were young drinking, he was like, man, I can't stand drinking. I had to quit because I started drinking. I just start pacing around the room. Because he got all that nervous energy, and I can kind of understand what he means. Even though I understand it's a depressant, it seems to have a lot of stimuli in it when you first get it crunk, especially if you got the right track on. You drinking for hours. But I must say I definitely enjoyed smoking a lot better. It gives me the sensation, the feeling that I'm looking for. Kind of being relaxed, being in a happy mood, a giving, sharing mood, a positive mood, I guess is more so what I'm trying to say. And then I'm going to rest my case on this one. Humans love weed. It has evolved with us. And where we go, it goes. And I base this on indigenously, cannabis comes from the Kush Mountains. That's where cannabis originally descended. No other place on earth was it at. And through man traveling and conquering the world, so cannabis went with it. And basically phenotypically morphed and became, I guess, more sativa cerebral effects. As I've heard Kevin Jodry talk about, like a good way he put it was, if you're in a warm tropical climate, you want to be happy and in a good mood. And if you're in a cold, mountain, rough climate, you want something that's going to take away the pain and make you go to sleep. So that kind of explains the two different, I guess, effects between sativa and indica and what you would get. But it originated there and spread out to where man went, and then nature took over and made it what it was. But we had to love it that much because at one point it was everywhere. And it's kind of coming back to that point. I'm realizing it might be getting too oversaturated, the same way that the craft beer boom. Last time I really remember checking, it was about 2,800 breweries with 2.8 breweries opening up every day. This was, I guess, around 2012, 2013 or so. And yeah, breweries are closing left and right now, so that bubble has burst. And I'm wondering when or if the cannabis bubble will ever burst. I don't think that mass production is necessarily the way to go. And a lot of the models that craft breweries and independent breweries were using was, instead of expanding, they actually got smaller, having food trucks come there, helping not only themselves with business, but other local businesses, as being a collaborative thing, bringing that sense of community. Having their own live music, giving, I guess, the community a chance to display their talents. And it's more of an organic type of feel. This is something people want to contribute to more than something, hey, if you build it, they will come. Man, not necessarily. I think that you can't necessarily throw money at something and get it to work. That's not necessarily organic. But if you start small and build it, and you get to that point, now that would be organic. But I think that might be where craft brewery wants to go, just kind of staying small and specializing in certain things, depending more so on the community than the masses, faceless customers somewhere. You can kind of tailor what you're growing to the certain people coming in the same way. Hey, I know I need to have these certain beers on tap for these certain customers. And I think that will make cannabis not only survive, but kind of get some innovation at that point. But I'm extremely happy that cannabis is taking over beer, and more so because there's the ability to actually do it. Now, breweries aren't as common as beer stores, but within your town, there's probably quite a few dispensaries. So you do have the option and the choice to, I guess, pick your poison, literally. But I'm really attributing it to cannabis is something you can do in your house. You can fire up a J, watch a bunch of movies, Netflix and chill by yourself, stream, play some video games. Drinking, I think you kind of got to be ready to go somewhere or do some kind of event. It's this, I guess, almost like a numbing agent to get you through things. And cannabis is more to, put you in a pleasant mood to enjoy the world that you're in. So that's just my thoughts on it. I'm kind of curious to see what everything's going to be. And if everything's going to play out the way I'm kind of thinking, it's just going to keep growing. This is something I think the world's kind of been waiting for. Definitely America's been waiting for. So I'm eager to see how this is going to play out. I think as far as beer goes, it did cap out at where they said it would, and now it's on the decline. So let's go to this part. I'm very curious about this, actually. I'm very, very, very curious about this. This is an article from Marijuana Moment. Marijuana will gain millions of customers over alcohol, with sales hitting 37 billion by 2027, investment bank projects. Who's the investment bank is a real question, but we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of it, because I'm curious what the sales are now. I'm thinking somewhere around, I'm guessing 24 billion. That's just the first number that comes in my head. So let's kind of see where we're at here. PWA, at least the WA part, the weed and alcohol. So, a multinational investment bank says that marijuana has become a formidable competitor to alcohol, projecting that nearly 20 million more people will regularly consume cannabis over the next 5 years as booze loses a couple million drinkers. It also says marijuana sales are estimated to reach 37 billion in 2027 as more state markets come online. An analysis from the firm TD Cowen says marijuana sales reached 29 billion in 2023. Okay, so I was close. I was very, very, very close. 29 billion, and exceeded my expectations. Boom. Okay, so man. So what's that? In 12 years, they're expecting 8 more billion. I mean, I guess that's fair. Yeah, definitely guess that's fair. Okay. With an approximate 1% of what alcohol industry brought it. Okay, hold on. So let me take this from the top. It's kind of getting faded at this point in the game. An analysis from the firm TD Cowen says marijuana sales reached 29 billion, I remember that, in 2023, which is approximately 1% of what alcohol industry brought in. Oh, man, okay. That's up from 4% just 5 years ago, and marijuana is expected to, let me move the page, grow by another 7% annually over the next 5 years. Okay, so they're expecting a 35% growth over a 5-year span. Okay. As such, we believe that over the next 5 years, the cannabis category will add 18 million past month consumers, while alcohol will lose 2 million past month consumers, as consumers increasingly embrace cannabis and temper their alcohol consumption. A report says titled, Cannabis Beats Booze. So due to a report, this is quoting a report from Cannabis Beats Booze that it'll be a 35% increase in marijuana usage within 5 years, and it will be a 1% decrease for alcohol every year. Wow, okay. Yeah, I like drinking, I like smoking, but I would much rather drink than smoke. I find myself doing that a lot more than I actually do drinking. Especially at this stage in the game, I can't handle all that liquid. It's just too much. Be peeing for days, like road trip peeing. Be 10 minutes in the bathroom pissing. That coffee's a little too sweet. Vivian Azar, team lead on the analysis, told Marijuana Moment that the report bolstered a growing body of market research. We've been calling for several years now for cannabis to increasingly prove as a dislocated the alcohol sales, and really, it's just a matter of time. She said, however, it is a little surprising to see data projecting an even greater underperformance for alcohol sales in legal marijuana states. Okay, so as more states go, less people get rid of alcohol. And as I was saying, I'm sure that that's due to being more socially acceptable, gaining access to it, and it's just a better price point, I believe. Yeah, much better price point than like a 6-pack or a 12-pack, I think. And you get longer lasting effects. I still think that's the points I'm sticking with. While marijuana sales are just a fraction of the dominant alcohol market, analysis says that there's a reason to believe that booze will be at risk of declining because of the increased substitution among consumers. Excuse me, I'm so sorry about that. Particularly young people. The TD Cohen report cited the proprietary survey that found more than 2/3 of cannabis users report reduced alcohol consumption. Excuse me, yeah, money is tight. You can't afford both anymore. And I think the fact that alcohol sales went up due to the boom in craft beer, I think that kind of made swayed everybody's decision in one way. And once things start getting online, people want a piece. More and more agencies want a piece. So it seems tougher and tougher to expand with alcohol. And quite honestly, as I was saying, the medicinal effects, it seems more like a better conscious decision, I'll say, a more moral decision. Like, this is from the earth, so on and so forth. And there is what DUI. But the thing about cannabis is usually, especially with the strains out now, you hit it, you're going to pretty much want to stay in the house and fall asleep. So you probably won't get in the car driving. Alcohol, and that's a whole nother story. At least for me, it amps me up, gets me super hyped. So I definitely think a safer alternative for society in itself would just be to let me smoke more instead of drink more, because if I run out, I might drive to the beer store. That's where the danger happens. So in turn, we are seeing divergent revenue growth trends in states where consumers have access to legal cannabis. It said nothing that the Bureau of Economic Analysis data shows alcohol is underperforming in legal marijuana states relative to prohibitionist states. And yeah, I would assume that. I'm sure that steered a lot of my purchasing in my youth. If I actually had cannabis, I probably would have never drank in the first place if I had the alternative. Oh shoot. Why do you do that? Involving state marijuana markets as well, yet to be implemented laws in states that have recently legalized, such as Minnesota and Ohio, will bring in an estimated $37 billion in sales in 2027. Wow, yeah, I think we're like 40 states, something like that at this point. And man, I remember when it was just first the two, then the big four. And shoot, I'm on like wave 4 or 5 of states going online in the state that I'm at. It adds that in the short term, it doesn't seem that alcohol companies will have difficulty navigating the shifting consumer trend, which also involve mostly younger people, generally reducing their alcohol intake. But in the medium and long term, certain brands may face competitive challenges. Now, what I think a lot of things are going to do, especially the video I did, Brutal Monkey News, with the Boston Brewing Company being talked to with shoot, I forget the company that was trying to buy them, but I think with hemp being more easy to transfer, having a lot more legality, these cannabis infused drinks that arrive in the THC from hemp. And that seems to be the direction a lot of these beer companies are going. There's a lot of cannabis beverages coming out. I know what Seth Rogen has one. I had one. Palmos was one, and then there's Pennsylvania Sparkling Water is another one. What the heck was the company? Endo, ENDO from Pennsylvania. So a lot of people are getting into these infused drinks, and I think that's probably a lot of the market share that they're talking about. I know years ago I heard Kevin Jodrey on the Future Cannabis Project. I believe it was Future Cannabis Project, or even it was his own thing, the Gangier. And he was talking about this is sales. I lost my train of thought with alcohol sales. 13 profiles and such. I think that's what was going on with hold on, I lost my train of thought. I really did. Man, this is bad. I had a really good point. It was Kevin Jodrey and he was talking about as more states come on, how it's a lot easier to possibly get products going. Interstate products, hemp being a lot more legal to deal with. You get a lot more bang for your buck out of growing hemp. You can use it as the medicinal oil. You can also use it for flavor, then the CBD aspect of it. So it's a lot easier to travel through states dealing with that. The cannabis beverage market, I think, is really where it's going to go. What Kevin Jolly was saying, I remember now, as that in California, flower is the least category. The number one category is the vape pen. Then goes to like dabs, concentrates, things like that. And then flower was the least market share. And that's just in California, but that was years ago. So them saying the marijuana sales are going to go up, I wonder in what form. I'm thinking flower in my head, but because of these different innovations I'm seeing and different people trying to come out with these infused beverages, I don't exactly know if that's what it's going to be. Is it going to go into an edible direction, pure flower? I'm really not sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm really, really curious about this. How is this going to happen? And I want to see if it actually does by the time that they're predicting. Well, there's been reporting about an alcohol industry's interest in potentially entering the marijuana market. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Boston Brewing Company, Sam Adams, what the heck? DC Brow and Oscar Blues had a beer, Smells Like Freedom, the day that DC actually went rec legal. They came out with one. I just named a few: Palmos, Endo. I forget the Seth Rogen one. I want to say there's a few other entertainers who have some infused drinks coming on. But while there's been reporting about the alcohol industry, interest in the marijuana market, she doesn't anticipate significant movement until there's some legislative and administrative regulatory change at the federal level. So I would have to agree. So she's basically saying until the feds, the government is federally legal, nobody's really going to do any big moves. They can keep making small moves, corner certain, I guess, smaller markets, niche markets, but nobody's really going to be trying to go coast to coast sales until it is federally legal, rescheduled, which I guess this would be the year everybody's anticipating. And I don't necessarily know how that's going to go for the home grower, but we'll see about that. We will definitely see. While the report focused on U.S. trends amid the state legislation movement, TD Cohen also looked at Canada. which legalized marijuana at the national level in 2018. As a useful case study, it found that Canadian cannabis sales are now 20% the size of what the alcohol market is. Damn. That's pretty good considering what, it's like 1% here? Well, oh, hold on. What did they say in 2018? It was like 1% of beer's market. And with Canada going in 2018, cannabis has already taken up 20% compared to alcohol. So they've made some major headway in Canada. Several of the report findings are supported by separate research, including a study published last month that found marijuana legalization may be linked to a substitution effect, with young adults in California significantly reducing the use of alcohol and cigarettes after the cannabis reform was enacted. Yeah, I think I remember them commercials would let us be the generation to quit smoking. And I guess that really happened. It wasn't just natural, though. We needed weed to help. We need something to weed us off. Help us out. Throw me a bone or something. Okay, data from Gallup survey published in August also found that Americans considered marijuana to be less harmful than alcohol, cigarettes, vapes, and other tobacco products, which I believe is true. I am definitely an advocate of that one. I hate these ads. There's so many ads on these things. A separate survey released by the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, a morning consult in June. Oh, excuse me. Can't read again. My goodness, I'm so sorry. A separate survey released by the American Psychiatric Association and Morning Consult in June also found that Americans consider marijuana to be significantly less dangerous than cigarettes, alcohol, and opioids. And they say cannabis is less addictive than each of those substances, as well as technology. Saying that, I guess that's science backing that up is what they're trying to claim here with the as well as technology. Last year, a survey showed that Americans believe that cannabis is less dangerous than alcohol or tobacco. So they pretty much, I'm noticing a theme here. Okay, so they literally like are trying to, I guess, walk them down to just singling out the one drug. Okay, what do you feel about these 4 drugs? Okay, what about these 3 drugs? What about these 2 drugs? Okay, what about this? They just ask. They're trying to trick you into the truth. We'll flat out tell you now it's legal. Last year, a survey showed that Americans believe that cannabis... Oh, yeah, okay, I just read that. I'm sorry. Less dangerous than tobacco and alcohol. State-level market data also reinforces T.D. Cohen's analysis. For instance, Michigan marijuana sales outpaced purchases of beer, wine, liquor combined during the most recent fiscal year, according to the new report of the legislature's nonpartisan House Fiscal Agency. Whoa. How bad are all of y'all at one time? Oh, man. Yeesh. So, yeah, Michigan, we ain't drinking no more. We a dry state. We just need some fire and we good. Man, that's depressing. You had like 100-year head start on us too. Also, during the last fiscal year in Illinois, legal cannabis brought in $451.9 million, about $135.6 million more than alcohol. Dang, we lapped you. We lapped you, man. We lapped you. Oh, now, okay, this is just going to be rubbing it in, I guess. Sure. Colorado last year, state generated more income for marijuana than alcohol or cigarettes, and nearly as much as alcohol and tobacco combined. Similar milestones have been seen in Arizona and Washington state. Wow. So I guess you better bring some cigarettes if you're going to Colorado. It might not have your brand. Oh, so that was the end of that? Okay. So we rocked that one out too. Good to go. Thank you so much for that information. So, I'm expecting, I was wondering about that. Now, I was thinking that cannabis was going to do some work, but I didn't expect it to increase that much. They're claiming about 7% increase in the next 5 years. And I'm guessing alcohol is going to do something similar, probably decrease by about 35% by that time. It seems like that was a substitute for cannabis. Now that it's legal, man, I don't need you no more. Sorry. No more slits, more liquor, boo. Man, no more highlight. A different kind of Bud Light. So yeah, it's very interesting. I really am eager to see how this plays out with everything. I was wondering if beer was going to, like, I guess, equilibrium and even out, the sales would stay steady, or if they would decrease, and they're kind of projecting an opposite trajectory between the two. One's going to be trending up, the other trending down. Fascinating. So I really would like to hear your thoughts and hear how it is in your state. Actually, that's the one question I have. In your area, do you notice anything different? Have you noticed, I guess, have you even been in a beer store? Are you noticing bars slowing down, closing down? Yeah, this has been the Cannabis Analysis. You definitely enjoy yourself, fellow Cannabisians, because I know I did.
Welcome to the Cannabis Analysis, the podcast that covers all things cannabis. We're going to talk, debate, examine, and get great. We are now live on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Don't forget to join our locals community. The link tree will be in the description box.